What's up, sneaker people? It's your boy at B Kicks and Gear, and I am back with the highly anticipated legit check guide featuring the PK 4.0 Fragment Travis Scott 1 lows. And I've been absolutely harassed to make this video for so long, and I finally have the PK 4.0 pair in, and I can make the comparison. These videos are super important, especially when it comes to these batches that are being touted as 100% identical to retail pairs with retail materials and everything like that. But just like every other legit check guide that we have done, there's always something that you can tell. There's always got to be something that you can hone in on to find the differences, and that's what these videos are about. So we are going to get into this legit check guide, and we're going to get into the details about what makes the authentic pair authentic and what makes the fake pair fake. But before we get into that, remember guys, we are on Discord now. We are trying to cultivate a community centered around legit checking, sneakers, and all that good stuff. And I'm trying to kind of add some positive energy into this space. So join the Discord. The link is in the description. But now that I've plugged that, let's get into the shoes, and remember that you can see all the pictures of the shoes that we're talking about and the details and everything like that on the Instagram account that's popping up on the channel right now. Remember guys, hone in on those details, look at those specifics, because that's how you're going to be able to do the legit check. So I've talked enough about not the shoes, so let's actually talk about the shoes. And I am not going to do the box today because my box for my authentic pair is actually a replacement box. It is a rep box from a replica pair of shoes, so there is no value in doing that comparison. And until I get an authentic box, I'll do that, but I probably won't get an authentic box, so there will be no box comparison. Just remember that when it comes to legit checking boxes using the label, look for that RFID tag if it calls out an RFID tag, and look at the smallest text that you can find, usually the made in China text or the color code. Compare that to a retail Jordan 1 that you have and see how they compare, because if they match, you're more than likely looking at an authentic pair. If they don't match, you're definitely looking at a fake. So that's all I got to say about the box in this section of the video. Let's actually start talking about the shoes. So here we have it, the infamous PK 4.0 next to my starting to get even more well-worn pair of retails. And first thoughts is that this is definitely one of the best that I have seen. And there are tons of pretty up there batches when it comes to the Travis Scott Jordan 1 Low Fragment, because it's overall a pretty simple shoe, but there are small details that these rep manufacturers tend to overlook, and we're going to see how close this gets. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to do a side-by-side comparison, because the easiest trip up to pick up when it comes to these shoes is looking at the color of the swoosh and the color of the outsole, midsole, and when you put them side by side, it's super apparent to see if there are any differences. So that's what we will do. I apologize for the viewing angle, guys. I'm in a new setup, same area, but a new setup, and I'm trying to work out spacing so I can do these reviews a little bit better. So here we have it side by side. On the right, you have the PK 4.0. On the left, you have the authentic pair. And what I'm going to say is that the PK 4.0, while visually being pretty good, still has some of those issues that I've seen on other reps. Not to the greatest degree that I've seen. Still definitely going to be very hard to tell if you don't have an authentic pair right next to you, but still has some of those issues, and we're going to go into it. As you can see right now, I think the biggest difference that you can see is the midsole color. Reps struggle, absolutely struggle with the midsole color, and I don't know what it's going to take to get it right. The midsole on the authentic pair is pale. It's aged, but it looks aged in a different way compared to the rep. When you look at the rep, it's darker, it's more yellow. Even the threads going through the midsole are more yellow than the threads going through the authentic pair. And keep in mind, my authentic pair is worn, right? So you can see that there's scuffs and there's even more aging and wear and things on it, and it still comes in lighter than the midsole of the PK 4.0. Now, are there retail pairs of people who don't take care of their shoes to the extent that I take care of mine, and they have soles this yellow because of dirt and grime and everything that built up? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that you wouldn't find a worn pair of retail lows that are this dark, but look at the wear on mine and look how much lighter it still is. I would expect an authentic pair to have a sole this dark to be super beat up, or maybe has sun damage from being, displayed in a window or something like that. But definitely something that you can point to, definitely something that's pretty visible in my opinion. The thing that is surprising though is that the reverse swoosh is super close in color to the authentic pair. Probably the closest that I've ever seen in person, with maybe the authentic pair being a slight bit darker, but that is the closest swoosh that I've ever seen. And I'm saying that right now. The only thing from this, if I had to stop this video right now, the only thing giving me the sign that these are a rep is the midsole, but that reverse swoosh is crazy close. Usually studio lighting picks up everything, and this is the slightest color difference that I've ever seen. So that is pretty impressive and a huge blow to legit checking in my opinion, because I have not seen that before, and it's something that I've been going to a lot. I would always point to the contrast between the reverse swoosh and the midsole. So there you have it, guys. That's the reverse swoosh. Let's get to some other aspects of the shoe. I like to go to this angle of the shoe specifically because one, it further highlights the contrast between the midsole colors, but you can also get a very good look at the difference in the blue leather colors, and you can see that the PK 4.0 is definitely a bit darker of a blue in the leather department, while the authentic pair is a more sport blue. This is typically what Nike calls sport blue. It's not royal blue. It's a little bit more vibrant and a little bit lighter than their royal blue, but as you can see, the authentic pair comes in at a lighter shade than the PK 4.0, so that is definitely a difference there. Let's take a look at the other shoes to see if this isn't a variation thing, if it's just something that happens across the shoe. And you can see on the other shoes as well, the blue leather definitely comes in darker. So for the 8 minutes that I've been speaking, talking about midsole and reverse swoosh, to recap right now, the differences that we do see is a darker midsole and the blue leather being a darker shade of blue. So from there, let's take a look at the toe box shape. One of the things that I talk about a lot in my legit checking videos is this toe box shape that Travis Scott 1 lows tend to have. It's from a profile perspective, it's bulgy, it's kind of flat, not too bulky, but most importantly, you see that bulge right in the profile, and you see that while the leather comes up onto the front of the toe, it doesn't come all the way up to the top of the toe. That's something that reps tend to struggle with. When we do that comparison, we see that the PK 4.0 definitely has the right shape, although the black leather does come up a tad bit high onto the toe box. This is super minuscule and it's not really something that's easy to pick up, but if you train your eye to look at these, especially in hand, you can see that there's a slight difference. It does come up just a bit higher on the toe box, so that the black leather is actually sitting on top of the toe box instead of coming to the very edge of where the toe box is. From there, I like to look at the midsole code right here. The factory code here on the Fragment low is usually a pretty good indicator as well, because one of the unique things about it is that it is not particularly clean or crisp. It's bold, it's not pressed on straight, It doesn't look like a fine detail when it comes to these shoes, on the authentic versions at least, and the replica factories tend to not actually recreate that kind of sloppiness that these have. So it's kind of a hard thing to talk about. It's the imperfection that allows you to legit check them. So let's take a look at the PK 4.0 and see how it looks compared to the authentic pair. So when comparing them side by side, I've got to say this is pretty damn spot on when it comes to that code. The PK 4.0 version on the top here is bold. It's not straight. It's not perfect. It's not prim and proper. They really did a good job of like capturing that essence of like, this is supposed to be like a factory code. This is something that they label on the shoe for identification purposes or something like that. It's not a, hey, look at this. This is like a special design. I think that's what Fragment Design was going for. I think that's what Nike was going for, to give this a prototype feel. And they did a good job. They really did a good job capturing it. Let's take a look at the other shoe. And this looks pretty good too. Let's just make sure actually that the letters and numbers are correct. Let's see. So as you can see that the authentic pair is still a little bit more bold, but let's just make sure that the letters are correct. And they are, which is good. So we've got a lot of good stuff going on about the authentic pair that still make it legit checkable, which is great in my opinion. The last thing that I really want to go over before I close out the video is I really want to take a look at the Nike AirTag, and we'll just do these ones real quick just to see. So keep in mind mine is worn, so that will come into play a little bit, but they look fairly identical. Spacing looks pretty good. The Fragment design looks like it's sized properly compared to the authentic pair. Maybe a little, it might be placed a little bit further down, but that kind of stuff can vary. So overall, I would say that this patch is just a tad bit bigger than the authentic pair, but. And if you turn over tags, fairly close, in my opinion. And when we take a look at the other one, usually the difference that I see on the other Cactus Jack tag is that there's a slight difference in the shade of red. So let's see if that is the case. There is, the rep pair being significantly more vibrant than the authentic pair. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm thinking, let's see if light's cooperating with me. Let's do a quick black light test and see where we're at with that. So there isn't really much that reacts on the Fragment. The Nike AirTag reacts, back of the tongue reacts, and pretty much nothing else. So the bar is really low. So let's see. Nike AirTag, back of the tongue, and nothing else. And that was the fastest blacklight test you've ever seen on any YouTube channel. So other than that, guys, overall quality is the same, material leathers are the same, embroidery quality is the same, imprint quality more or less the same. These will be varying across all retail pairs. They aren't always exactly the same, but more or less the rep pairs a little bit more bold and a little bit smaller, as well as the heel shape being a little bit taller on the authentic pair. Definitely a lot more uniform on the other shoe. Those Cactus Jack faces look a lot closer in size together, but overall you're seeing a height difference on the authentic pair, and maybe a little bit more wider profile on the rep. So that's it, guys. That's the PK 4.0 Fragments. There isn't really much else to talk about. What are your guys' thoughts? I think that this is a rep that is definitely pretty scary if you don't have familiarity with the authentic pair. I don't think that it's going to fool serious legit checkers, especially if they have a lot of experience with authentic pairs. The things that really stand out to me in terms of being able to authenticate these is the darker midsole, which is always going to be something that rep factories struggle with. It's also going to be the darker color of the blue leather. That's something that surprisingly is something that I've seen across multiple batches. It's something that they struggle with. It's something that, you know, over time maybe they lose the materials or something like that, but overall still very legit checkable. I don't know if you guys were expecting something that was super identical, but you guys know I don't believe in one-to-one reps. It's a myth. It's not true. It doesn't happen. There are some very, 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 very close replicas, but nothing to one-to-one. So with all that said, guys, remember, you can see all the pictures and angles and details and everything on the Instagram account that's going to pop up on the screen. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.